Today, on the DML News Podcast, we're going to give updates on the Trump trial, specifically with Michael Cohen taking the stand. We're going to talk about how Jen Psaki and Bernie Sanders love to lie. We're also going to talk about the UN revising the death toll of Palestinians. And if you have testicles, are you ready to donate them to the trans cause? This and more, and it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hey everybody, it's Denny here solo today. DML's a little busy for now, and I'll get to that in a second as to why. But we do have Ryan behind the controls. If Ryan, you want to give a little wave and say hello to the audience. All right, so as I mentioned in that intro, we have some update stories and crazy stories. But before we get into any of that, I want to give some big housekeeping items, sort of say, in terms of things, Team DML and things going on over at True News. Now, we've had some questions. What is True News? We've been kind of saying all week that True News has been the conversion of what the DML News website used to be. Now it is True News. So it's been more of a gloss over rather than an immediate change. So in case you've just been wondering as to why certain things on that website have changed, and there will be more changes to come, it's just me and our team here telling you that don't worry, it's still all the same. But in terms of things that are changing, a lot of the different content that we have put out, such as the morning briefing, is now being transferred over to Team DML. So you're going to have to become a member if you want to get things like the morning briefing, the morning prayer. It's just going to slowly become a conversion over to our membership only. You'll still get news website items as you've always been getting it, but things that are more pertaining to of DML interest, Team DML interest, you have to be a Team DML member. And obviously, if you want to join, the URL is teamdml.com/join. And I urge you to join because we have some very big initiatives heading that way, such as Great American Newsletter. Now, we've been promoting this for about 2 weeks now, and we're still in the beta testing phase. In fact, our first big beta test email went out this morning. So you may have gone into your inbox, and the sender may have said Mr. Lynch instead of the Great American Newsletter. That will be worked out within the next 2 weeks to come. A main reason it even says Mr. Lynch, or the fact that it was only 2 sections out of the 8 that we have planned, is again, when these things launch, sometimes you have to do kind of a testing rollout, such as who's getting it in their main inbox, who's getting it in their promotions or their junk mail. For example, Ryan got it in his main inbox today. For some reason, it went to my junk mail. So I had to go in, make the change to switch it, and to ensure that going forward, it's going to happen that way, that it's going to end up in my main inbox. Now, if you're saying, well, I didn't listen to yesterday's podcast, where the heck do I go? I'm going to have Ryan put up a banner that will launch right now. And this banner will stay there for the rest of the show, just right there in the corner of the screen. The URL you're going to want to go to, at least for the next 10 days or so, is Great Again, like as in Make America Great Again, but just greatagain.squarespace.com. That is going to change in about a week and a half to greatamerican.squarespace.com. Reason being, we had to get a temporary URL name in its spot for the time being. It is going to switch over to Great American because that is what the newsletter is called, but we just didn't want to wait on that time span because we wanted to start getting this rollout going to you now. However, if it goes from Great Again to Great American, you don't have to do anything. If you are looking to get signed up right now, all you have to do is type in greatagain.squarespace.com. Now, to make it even simpler, just because I want to make sure you guys have this, when you type it in, the first thing that's going to pop up is Mr. Good Old DML's face. And in it, there's going to be an intro. In fact, Ryan is going to put a screenshot that I've taken to just show that you're on the right page. I am Dennis Michael Lynch, DML, And I know delivering unfiltered, trustworthy news to the masses was the key to winning 2016. But in 2024, big tech silences conservatives, undermines Trump, and aids the spread of liberal lies. All in, Democrats are killing our country. So it's now or never for you and me to fight back by distributing the truth. Consider the Great American Newsletter our weapon. It provides true news and bypasses censorship. If you need more convincing, read my op-ed below. When you get to that main page, you're going to start wanting to scroll down. And now here is my second screenshot. Subscribe. You see that big box where it says subscribe if you're watching? All you have to do is first name, last name, and your primary email address. If you're someone who has 3 or 4 different emails like me, which, my gosh, it gets crazy, you're going to want to put in the email that you know you check regularly every single morning. When you do that, you click the sign up box and you're going to have a little pop-up that just says you're good to go. But as that blurb before just said, we are dealing with big tech here. And unfortunately, most email systems, such as Gmail, make it sometimes difficult for things that they don't like to get into your main inbox. So here is my third screenshot. If you're on the website right now, greatagain.squarespace.com, and you're scrolling through and you saw the intro and you saw the subscribe form, you're then going to get to a point that says, make it stand out, how to get the Great American Newsletter in your primary inbox. And to your right, you should see an awesome picture of former President Donald Trump, hopefully soon to be the next president. Now, you'll see there in my screenshot that I have Ryan putting up how to go to your Gmail, because Gmail is the most commonly used email platform, and how you can go by step to get you that newsletter in your main inbox. So it's not in your promotions or in your junk mail or anywhere else, because that's what they'll do. They'll just kind of scrub it into an area where you'll never have access to it, or not necessarily never, but more so out of sight, out of mind. If it's in there, I know I don't check my promotions or junk mail. It's going to be hard for me to know when I get the update that the newsletter's gone out. So I'll just go for the example with the Gmail. Open Gmail and go to Promotions tab. Find an email from the sender you want moved to your inbox. Drag the email to the primary tab. That's your main inbox. When prompted, select Yes to ensure that all future emails from that sender go to your primary inbox. That is big. Now, if you don't have Gmail, I'll have Ryan put up my fourth screenshot. There are descriptions for, or I should say instructions for how to do Outlook, Apple Mail, and Yahoo Mail. Again, when you go to greatagain.squarespace.com, just scroll down till you get to the instructional section, and you just go through those steps to ensure that your email from the Great American Newsletter is always ending up in your main inbox. Now, for the last screenshot here, or I should say the last two, if you were to continue scrolling down that webpage, you're going to see what we have upcoming for the full newsletter. Now, for the one we worked on yesterday that went out this morning, we did sections 1 and 2, which is top headlines of the day, and the race to the White House, which is always going to be centric to Trump updates and Biden updates. As for the newsletter that will go out for tomorrow, because again, this is just our testing phase, it'll be sections 3 and 4, which this is my last screenshot that Ryan will put up. Section 3 is True News, which is going to incorporate Borderless, which is about everything illegal immigration in the border. Unfiltered, which is news that the left purposely ignores, such as CNN and MSNBC just choosing not to acknowledge a story. I mean, we got one today about Jen Psaki that you're going to want to hear. And Heartbeat of America, which is about health news and wellness. Section 4 is about exposing the radicals. You got Crazy Left, speaks for itself. Rhino Alert, where we tackle the Republicans that really are just Republican in name only. And the Lying Media, which is just more about the mainstream media promoting lies that everyone needs to be on the lookout for. So that will go into your main inbox tomorrow if you just follow the instructions as to how you get the Great American Newsletter to be there. So again, greatagain.squarespace.com. I'll have Ryan leave the banner up if you're watching. So that way you know that when you go to that form, you'll be able to sign up. You'll be able to follow the instructions. And in our opinion, the best pro-America, pro-Trump newsletter will always be in your inbox from now until the election, and then hopefully following the election when Trump wins, because it's not about if anymore, it's about when. Because in my opinion, the only way it becomes an if is if we really just have further election meddling, which now brings me to the start of our show. Trump is on trial. Shocker. Keeps happening. And right now, we have Michael Cohen taking the witness stand. Now, we discussed this a little bit yesterday. If you're familiar with Cohen, he is a liar. He's a convicted fraud. He's someone who most people kind of find generally untrustworthy. So I'm just going to read the latest update regarding Cohen from Fox News. Prosecutors will continue their questioning of Michael Cohen on Tuesday after the ex-Trump attorney spent a full day on the stand testifying against former President Trump in his criminal trial. Cohen is said to be the star witness of Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg and his team as they try to prove the former president falsified business records related to a $130,000 payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Bragg charged Trump with 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. Trump has pleaded not guilty to all charges and maintains his innocence. Cohen, who once famously said he would, quote, take a bullet for Trump, his former longtime boss and friend, testified against him about his role in arranging the alleged hush money payment to Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election in an effort to keep her allegations of a sexual encounter with Trump in the early 2000s from becoming public. Prosecutor Susan Hoffinger led the questioning. Cohen testified Monday that working at the Trump organization was fantastic and working for Trump was an amazing experience. Cohen testified that he spoke to Trump multiple times a day and often lied for his boss, saying he did so because it was needed in order to accomplish the task. Hoffinger asked Cohen if it was accurate to describe himself as a fixer for Trump, to which he replied, it's fair. But as for the payment to Daniels, Cohen testified that in October 2016, he told Trump that Daniels must be paid to quiet her claims ahead of Election Day the following month. When Daniels emerged, Cohen said Trump was really angry with me. Now look, trying to take Cohen at face value or his honest word is very difficult considering the fact that he, again, is a legally proven fraud and liar. He served jail time for it, prison time for it, I should say. He's also been very active in speaking about this case while Trump has been silenced through the gag order. So for Cohen here, it's really not so much about honesty and fairness as it is about how do I make another quick buck off my former boss's name. I think it's just becoming more apparent and more aware whether, if you're a conservative or a Republican or just pro-Trump, you know that this has just become bogusness. But it's becoming more so of an awareness for those on the left. Perfect example, CNN's Fareed Zakaria, who has been a very big vocal Trump critic, even went on his program this week to voicefully say, hey, at this point, this is politically motivated. There's nothing here. It's just a gotcha trial. And at this point, it's just going to lead to Biden completely losing and faltering with the Democrats this election. Here is a clip of Fareed just speaking the truth.
Seem to be uniting behind Trump. Whatever opposition he faced in the primaries has largely melted away. And the trials against him keep him in the spotlight, infuriate his base, who sees him as a martyr, and even may serve to make him the object of some sympathy among people in general who believe that his prosecutors are politically motivated. This happens to be true, in my opinion. I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump. A majority of Americans are skeptical that Trump will be able to get a fair trial, according to a CNN poll.
So, Rye, when you see that, right, Fareed Zakaria, someone who is notoriously liberal, left-leaning, someone who has always played a certain bias to what CNN has designed for him, is now openly saying, one, this would not happen to anybody else, but it's happening because his name is Trump. Two, instead of the idea that this is going to isolate voters from him, it has ignited the base. I mean, Mom just said it the other day. I feel like the support is more overwhelming for Trump now than it was even in 2016. And then three, you actually have polling that shows that people believe that this has just become so unfair. So when you consider all these factors, doesn't it just make kind of complete and utter sense that Trump, by all metrics, should be winning this election come November 2024?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this, I think, yesterday. We were saying that, like, all signs point to Trump winning. And you just mentioned it earlier on the show. You're saying that, you know, if Biden does win, then it has to be because of election meddling, I think. And, you know, for CNN to do that, you know, when something is so prominent and like prevalent, you can't like ignore it. So CNN, maybe they just show that was their one time of being honest, because you can see the forest through the trees. So.
Yeah. Look, I think Trump has become a very super unique, once in a lifetime lightning rod. Because you want to know why? Fareed said it. You can throw indictments and criminal labels at him. Supporters, voters, and those with a pretty normal or high IQ, they don't care. You could throw an endorsement at him or rescind an endorsement at him. They don't care. You could try to paint a picture of him doing this and that. They don't care. Like, it does not matter what they toss at him at this point. If you know in your heart that this is a man that actually cares about America, because by all visuals and reality, he does. He could have just did his 4 years, realized he got boned for what they did with the election in 2020 and said, hey, you know what? At least I'm a successful businessman that could probably just take the back seat and enjoy my later years. But he said, no, I actually want to turn this country around and save it. And yet, whenever I see a Republican say I'm not endorsing him, it doesn't move the needle whatsoever. It's become like endorsements used to be such a prominent, viable thing when it came to, I guess, election needle moving, and yet it has become insanely irrelevant in the case of Trump. And even, you know, Trump can get the big donors. I mean, we just we did a report on True News about how Biden's doing more crazy elitist celebrity fundraisers come this summer. And, you know, Trump will have his big donor parties, but for the most part, he is racking it up when it comes to the small time donations, which are the donations that matter. So, you know, I just think at this point, unless they really try to freaking nab him in the way that he just can't escape it, whether it's Cohen, whether it's Stormy Daniels, whether it's just someone who has the biggest vendetta against him, no one's going to change the needle in terms of showing support for Trump. But speaking of presidential candidates who are failures, let's talk about Bernie Sanders here. I found this to be a very interesting clip because, as we know in this country right now, especially since Biden took office and since the pandemic days, in my opinion, quality on every sector aspect of this country has gone down. We're paying higher prices for things and getting less out of it. So there's obviously a disparity here. One of those big things, I think, is the healthcare system. I think healthcare right now is abysmal and just honestly insane. I mean, DML talks about it all the time about how he can't get coverage for certain things, even though he's paying an exuberant amount of money for his plan. So you would think that we would try to prioritize maybe, all right, how do we restructure this? How do we dismantle what Obamacare has kind of facilitated in place? And I'm not saying we should go back to the old ways either. Just something needs to make a little more sense. But instead of that, we got Bernie Sanders here saying that, no, the issue is we have too many white doctors. What? Yeah. So here's a clip of where he tries to make the argument that we need less white doctors and more diverse doctors.
That when Black, Latino, and Native American patients have access to Black, Latino, and Native American doctors, their health outcomes substantially improve. They're more likely to receive preventative services. They're more satisfied with their care, and they're more likely to live longer and happier lives.
According to Sanders, the average life expectancy is about 5 years lower for Black.
Ryan, I don't know about you, but I very much disagree with Mr. Sanders here.
DEI in, the medical field is so bad.
It's
To push that
awful.
on something that, could be the difference of you surviving or not, a procedure or a misdiagnosis or the right diagnosis, like that. Bernie's, that's a little nuts, a little scary. Because I know if I need a procedure done, if I want to get, a diagnosis for something, I don't care what creed or skin color you are. I care if, you're able to pass all your tests and you know what you're talking about and you're a good doctor, not because your skin color is black. I think a lot of people will agree with that. Black, Native American, Latino, white, Asian. I think everyone, when it comes to their health and, having a doctor that knows what he's doing is, I think everyone can agree on that.
We don't have the videos lined up, but I've seen way too many. I don't have TikTok, but I've seen it on Twitter. But TikTok trends that get translated to Twitter of diverse graduates basically touting how they got into medical school on very low GPA scales.
Yeah, I saw one. There was like 3.2 GPA. I saw those videos. Yeah.
Sorry, Bernie. I don't want that person as my doctor. I want the best of the best. I mean, for example, we have a Japanese dentist that basically serves our family, is a dentist to our family. And it does not bother me whatsoever that he is Asian. I mean, I don't care about the skin color. I care about competency. And are they the best of the best? And this guy is literally the best of the best. So what are we just going to go now based on, oh, that's your skin color? Okay, you're admitted to school, and we're going to promote you to the top doctor spot, even though your attributes do not line up with what's needed for this role. That's scary. So shouldn't come as a shock that this is coming from Bernie Sanders, and I think he's actually retiring after this term. Thank gosh. But I just think that when it comes to doctors, we should have the best of the best, not the second, third, or maybe 10th best of the best. Just my take.
It should be like that in every field.
It should be. Or maybe we should be focusing on, I don't know. Look, right, we just said sectors of this U.S., everything is just going down in terms of quality. A place that I would say lacks quality, and it's definitely shown for it, and now it's getting impacted by the massive layoffs that are surging across the country, is Red Lobster. Now, I haven't ate at a Red Lobster in a very long time. There's no doubt their quality has gone down, but it's still a commercial restaurant that has provided a lot of work opportunity to people who, whether they want to work as chefs starting out or trying to make a quick few bucks out of school, working as a server. Well, no more. In fact, could be the case that in a few years' time, Red Lobster is back under the sea, because here we have a report that says workers' fury. This is from Daily Mail. Workers' fury as thousands lose their jobs after Red Lobster immediately shutters more than 50 outlets across America without warning. I mean, that's kind of crazy. I'm not talking 5 stores or 10 stores. They just said 50 of our restaurants were closing it down immediately with no warning. Red Lobster staff across the country are up in arms after the seafood restaurant shuttered more than 50 outlets across with no warning, leaving them jobless with no notice. The chain has closed locations in Buffalo, Orlando, Jacksonville, and multiple other cities, and is auctioning off kitchen equipment and furniture. The brand is reportedly eyeing a possible Chapter 11 filing to restructure its debt, allowing it to discard long-term contracts and renegotiate new leases. Look, this Now, I don't know, Ryan. I don't know if I'd classify Red Lobster as fast food because it is a sit down restaurant. But in terms of commercial food chains like Olive Garden, Outback Steakhouse, and then when you actually consider fast food chains such as McDonald's, Burger King, we're constantly seeing reports that they are losing out big time because their whole model was supposed to be, hey, you want a quick sit down? Is it going to be the best quality food? No, but you know that going in. However, you'll get your bang for your buck because it's all supposed to be cheap. But since Biden's taken office and since the pandemic days, those prices on those cheap food items or meals have gone up exponentially. The quality has not raised up following those prices. If anything, quality has somehow found a way to go down, or even the quantity. I mean, if you look at a Big Mac in the 1980s compared to a Big Mac in 2024, there's literally a size shift. So when you have quality and quantity going down, but your price just keeps going bum, 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 people are going to say, heck, I'm just not going to go eat at these places. I guess if you want to see a net positive, okay, you're eating less at these crappy places, but the whole purpose, originally at least with fast food restaurants, was the convenience factor. Now, you're not even getting that.
I've never had Red Lobster.
You're not missing much.
Yeah, and their business model, if it's like TGI Fridays and those, it's low quality food for low prices, and like you just said, when you can't provide those low prices, people are going to go get better quality for the same price. So I think Red Lobster is in trouble.
It's.
I mean, I've never eaten at it, so I don't know. You have though, right?
It's been a very long time.
Yeah, and for a reason, probably.
And for reasons. You won't find me at Red Lobster anytime soon. I do feel for them though that this is happening. I feel for the workers that you don't even get a notice. You're just like, hey, it's off. And look, I think that paints to a greater scale that we have definitely entered an era, and maybe some of you watching will agree, where and it's unfortunate, it shouldn't be this way, but the employer-employee relationship is probably at a all-time distraught high. Because, right, let's take 30 years back. You start a job. If things aren't going well, maybe you give a 2 to 3 week notice. There's communication factor. The employer is supposed to value you. You value the fact the employer gave you the opportunity. Those days are gone. People sometimes just don't show up, quit on the spot, quit by not showing up.
Yeah, forget about a 2 week notice.
2 week notice is an old time tale in a way for a lot of these places. Maybe not so much with the career level, although I've seen that. Like some people just do rapid quit.
Or the silent quitting.
Yeah, silent quitting. And the concept used to be that most of the jobs you would get become that career level or career long level mainstay, because you get that career, you work there 20 to 30 years, you build up your 401k if you have something like that in place, and you become a valued employee. That's not the case anymore. And I could just tell you generationally, in me and Ryan's generation, the amount of friends I've had that switch over jobs almost, it used to be a multi-year basis. In some cases, I have seen it where it's become multi-month basis. I think it just goes to show that there has been a decline in the value between the employer to employee relationship. And I think it goes both ways. There's no doubt there are some employees who post themselves up. They just don't show up. They give poor performance. And there's that factor. But then there's also the case where the employer maybe oversteps themselves and they don't have the respect for the employees that they hired, or they don't pay the overtime if overtime is implemented. So I think that's just going to be a very awful generational problem. And look, I think also going remote for some of these jobs has kind of contributed to that. I think sometimes remote is necessary. Sometimes I think it's a reason why the employer to employee relationship has become so devalued. I don't know if that ever really gets fixed. I don't think it's ever going to get fixed under Biden's America, but I don't know how you reestablish that value when, for example, you got Red Lobster where 50 stores just say, hey, you're out of the job. Sorry that this just kind of came at you with no warning. It's crazy, but hopefully those guys can find something to maintain, because that is kind of crazy that, no warning, and just the lie that your job is secure is one that just, it's no way around it sometimes, I guess.
Bidenomics.
Bidenomics. Speaking of lies and Biden's ilk, let's talk about Miss Jen Psaki. Now, if you're someone who is an avid watcher or listener to this program, you sometimes hear us say that Karine Jean-Pierre, the current press secretary, is the worst press secretary of all time. She probably still holds that spot. But I got to be honest, Jen Psaki may take the title. That's also a Biden press secretary. I think a big reason for that is because when you take Karine Jean-Pierre, what I think we have learned about her is that she just has no idea what she's talking about. Like, I think she's just given the bullet points. She reads through that little booklet real quick. And most of the time, I think it's, who is it? Pete Ducey, Steve Ducey?
Yeah.
Who,
he always rips into her.
He always rips into her and gets her on the gotchas. But Jen Psaki, I think, actually enjoys the lying. So where Karine Jean-Pierre is just ignorant and doesn't know, I think Jen Psaki does know but likes to be subversive. Great example. She just wrote a book. I don't know what the name is. I don't care to know. It's probably just going to be filled with lies, because great example. Her book wanted to go into the fact that Biden was not checking his watch during, or let me read the report. Jen Psaki incorrectly claimed that President Biden was not looking at his watch during a service for soldiers who were killed in Afghanistan. In fact, she labeled it as misinformation. Now, I don't have the video lined up. If Ryan could quickly find it, maybe he could play it as quick little B-roll. We all saw it. Biden was at the service. He literally checks his watch. Who knows if he saw it? He's a little bit on the older side in terms of what the actual time was, but it happened. It was something that everyone could visually see. Jen Psaki, of course, trying to say that it's misinformation. We really, and I'm hoping that when Trump wins, we really need some honest, effective people in the role of press secretary. Because Jen Psaki literally lied her way with the whole, let me circle back to you. And here she is on an MSNBC program, writing books, telling lies. And look, she, like I said, she's subversive. I think there's a part of her that actually hates Joe Biden. I'll never forget when she was on her, this was last year, she was on her program talking about how Biden's a night owl, which is why he needs to sleep in and doesn't really activate himself in the mornings. I think it was a way of her subversively trying to critique him and saying that, he is an old man who likes to sleep. But it's her way of trying to still promote Democrat talking points while maybe getting back at her former employer. Talk about the loss of value for employee to employer. But look, this is not misinformation. Biden not only just botched the whole Afghanistan withdrawal, but he has not given any respect to the 13 service members that lost their lives. Even during his State of the Union speech, Hannity hosted the father to the slain soldier who, called him out for the failed withdrawal. So for Jen Psaki to try and sit here and write that this is misinformation and do cleanup, just preposterous. But let's continue on with Biden's incompetent administration. Mr. Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, he just made an impromptu, unannounced visit to Ukraine, who I think collectively we have given $175 billion to. Here's from Fox News. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken visited Ukraine on Tuesday on an unannounced diplomatic mission to reassure the country amid its war with Russia. After arriving in Kyiv, Blinken is expected to meet with senior Ukrainian officials and highlight the United States' enduring support for Ukraine. In the Ukrainian capital, he will also underscore the Biden administration's commitment to Ukraine's defense and assure Ukraine that it has America's support against increasingly intense Russian attacks. So, Ryan, here you have Jen Psaki basically just trying to diminish the entire Afghanistan withdrawal and the soldiers that we lost to it. But when it comes to Ukraine, Biden's administration needs to at all flummoxes reassure that we are going to support them until the end of our days, because this wasn't even on the schedule to go to Ukraine, but now we're just flying over our Secretary of State with no announcements. And gosh, I mean, $175 billion in funding for a war that we all know at this point they're not going to win.
Lost cause, but it's for democracy, Denny. It's for democracy.
Democracy. Well, before we get into some more international news, because we definitely have some updates on what's going on in Gaza, this is where we're going to break off, because we can only talk so much about certain topics. If you're someone who watches this program, you know that what we just talked about, fine for Facebook. The rest of it, such as giving up your testicles for giving up your manlyhood for the cause of transgenderism, also the cause of fighting for Palestine, and a little bit more. Can't talk about it here. So we recommend that you become a Team DML member so you can watch the full show. But if you're not going to, this is where we say goodbye.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.